Happy Father's Day, Dad. They grew up here. They spent a lot of times. So, yep, Eldorado. It's very historic. Now let's go. What they dig up. Yeah. Mate Rev, welcome. Today is Sunday, 1st of September, the first day of spring, and one of my favourite seasons. Yes, springtime. And of course, so it's a bit of a sad day for me too today because it's Father's Day. Father's Day, well, it's my first Father's Day without my dad. Well, of course, my dad passed away on July this year. So, I've got no mother, and I've got no father. But that doesn't mean I can do things the way we used to do. So, first of all, I'm at the cemetery to see my dad's grave, to see if there's a plaque on there or not. I'm not too sure if it's on there or not, but we can have a look. But anyway, let's go and see Dad, Okay, just arrived at my dad, well, let me put it this way. My mum was buried here. Well, first of all, my late brother and sister, Gary and Sandra. Gary died in 1966 and Sandra died in 1967. A long time ago, but they were infants. Of course, that's Mum's plug. My mum. Now it looks like there's no plug for my dad as yet. They will be. So it's going to take time, things before it happens, before we get a plug for my dad. And of course, it probably will go up. I'm not too sure whether it will go up top here. There's some stones being wrapped around a circle, with a shell in the middle. That's the shape of a heart, the stones. Isn't that nice? Yeah, it's a nice pretty flowers. Actually, my dad, mum and dad, were actually buried behind. My mum was buried there, and my dad was buried there. I buried the box, the urn of ashes. Yeah. Yeah, so that's my dad. Happy Father's Day, Dad. There was a lot of memories with Dad. And of course, my father was a painter for 45 years, a house painter. Painted houses and business buildings as well. And so he loved life. He loved fishing. He loved crayfishing. He loved going out. He loved a bit of walking. He loved walking. He loved going to the coffee shops. That was the last things he did. Going to the coffee shops. He loved coming see my concerts as well, my performances at the open mics, and he just loved that. He loved my music as well. So he loved that song. Remember the song? There's an old song called Hallelujah, I'm a Bum. That's his favourite. He's always pondering on me to sing that song. So, but I have recorded that actually. And so, memories of Dad. God bless him. Will I ever find another Dad? Anyway, let's go and go for a little bit of a drive. Yeah, go for a pick a town. We're going to pick a town. Yeah, why not? Bye, Dad. Now, this road that we're on is actually the road where my uncle and my auntie lived. But the farm on the right hand side is where my Uncle Carl and Auntie Norma lived. I spent a lot of times there as a small boy at this place, going back in the 60s. Yeah, memories. Yes, memories of Uncle Carl and Auntie Norma Wind, and that house there is named after a family, named after the road, Crosher's. This is Crosher Lane, actually, we're on. And that house over there on the right is the Crochers. They grew up here. They spent a lot of times. So there were the family, the Crochers and the Winds. So we've just turned around. So on your left, of course, were the Winds. Uncle Carl Wind. He had a dairy farm, he had a pig farm as well. Sort of a mixed grazing. Yep. That's where I grew up when I was a small boy. The house is still there, but there's a lot of buildings. See, it's all changed. God, I was only a small boy when that. There. Alright. Now we're going down, this is Crosher Lane heading east. So we've got to go down Burke Road. We had to take a detour because of the road works. So there's old Uncle Carl's farm. There's his paddock. He used to round up the cattle, the dairy, to milk his cows. It's all there. Pick a town, your town, my town. Pick a town, it's your town, it's my town, it's our town, it's everybody's town. Pick a town. Okay, welcome to Trev's Pick a Town. Pick a Town. Where am I? Well, this is where I am. Welcome to Eldorado. Yep, Eldorado. Makes you think it looks like American town, Eldorado. Eldorado actually means for gold, of course. That's where they find gold. Yeah. So, yeah. So, this is Pick a Town, Eldorado. So let's see what's in store in Eldorado. Let's go. Now, the first thing we're going to look at here in Eldorado is the Cox Eldorado Dredge. It's very historic. So let's go. Let's have a look at the dredge. Let's have a look at the old thing. We'll go on a historic walk We'll have a check out the dredge loop as well. We've got a sign. That's the old dredge. Yeah. It was built in 1936. The Eldorado Dredge was the biggest in the southern hemisphere. There you go. Okay. The bucket chain descended up to 30 metres below the surface of the pond, continuously excavating the gold-bearing gravels. This forward half of the dredge also contained the lifting gantry for raising and lowering the bucket chain and the controls for the motors that drove the winches, which controlled the motion of the dredge via cables to the shore. The buckets emptied into a large revolving perforated barrel called a trommel. This separated the finer gravels containing the gold from the coarse river pebbles. The material was treated in on-board jigs to separate the gold. Inside the working dredge could be a frightening experience for the casual visitor. There are darkened corners, shadows, cast of driving machinery, the shrieking of metal, straining against metal, the deep rumble of the trommel, and clatter of the crash of the electrical switching, the clack, the clank, and the grind of the bucket chain, the hum of the motors, the clanging of bells, and 1,000 other noises, the heavy shuddering of the dredge, all contrived to provide an experience. Here 70,644 ounces, 2 tons of gold, and 1,383 tons of tin concentrate was extracted from about 27 million cubic meters of earth between 1936 and 1954. The dredge required constant maintenance. Moving parts such as bearings, pulleys needed greasing regularly, and screens needed cleaning. There are always minor repairs needed, urgent attention of wearing parts that needed replacement. The dredge had an onboard crew of between 5 and 13 men per shift, working 3 shifts around the clock. On shore, a team including the superintendent engineer, electrician, blacksmith, pumpman, office staff, storemen, and a driver, etc. Kept the operation going in 1939. 78 men were employed by the company. The bridge end of the control room was the preserve of the winchman, who controlled the dredge with a series of levers and switches. The winchman manned this position day and night, through all weathers. In winter, the small wood heater near the central levers was kept alight, but it was small comfort when the icy winds blew through on bitter winter nights. The dredge was built in 1936 and was the biggest in the southern hemisphere. The massive steel-framed machine was made in Castlemaine, Victoria, by Thompson and Company, assembled on site in 1936. It operated until 1954, by which time it had recovered 2.2 tons of gold. These are the buckets that used to sluice all the ground, all the mounds of dirt, and to sieve all the gold. Well, I hope you're enjoying this old dredge. It's an old gold dredge. It's a massive machine. And what you're seeing behind me, that is the Eldorado, Crosher Eldorado dredge. And it must have been very, very noisy in the heydays of the gold digging days, back in the 1800s, in the early 1990s, roundabout. And yeah, so it was all, this Eldorado is noted for gold and also fossicking gemstones as well. So not only gold and gemstones, but also tin. They used to mine tin as well. So they would use those big giant buckets. They're very heavy, way over a few tons, and they would have used those to scoop out the sluice, all the mullock of the mud and dirt. Then it all gets sorted out. See if there's any gold, gemstones, tin. That's what they dig up. Yeah, but it's no longer running anymore. And of course, in the early days, back in my days, back in the 60s, this area was always been a swimming hole. We used to do a lot of swimming here. People used to dive off those struts that's shooting out of the building. Yeah, but now it's prohibited now to do that, because it is very dangerous. Because underneath, you know, it's a lot of undercurrents that could suck anybody down. There were times that that this whole thing was going to be demolished, but the Historical Society stepped in and say, hey, no way, you're not. And people in the town of Eldorado, in the surrounding area, and those are with the heritage, requested of this place, of this machine, Eldorado Dredge, not to be demolished. It's here for memory's sake. Thank God for that, yes.